Shabbat Shalom. In this week's Parsha, Bnei Israel are warned to eradicate completely all idolatry in Eretz Israel after entering into the land, because idolatry is an abomination before God. It's something that's disgusting and repulsive. Ki to'avat Hashem Elokecha hu. The Rav, Rabbi Soloveitchik, points out that with regard to two sins in particular, the Torah makes it a point of calling them toiva, something which is repulsive, which is disgusting. One is idolatry, and the other are a long list of arayot, of sexual misconduct. And the reason the Rav says that the Torah uses this language, toiva, is to arouse the aesthetic sense in people, because we have a sort of an inner tendency to justify all sorts of things that we do, even if they're not right. And when we think about them intellectually, we analyze them, we see that we think that we really were within our rights. It wasn't so bad. If you look at the law this way and look at us that way, it turns out that that we weren't so bad. That's when you look at things analytically. But the aesthetic sense is immediate. Use something that's totally repulsive, it's disgusting, that makes you want to vomit. That's something you can't avoid, and it hits you in the stomach, and it has its effect right away. And the Torah wanted in order to have us keep as far away as possible from certain types of isurim, of things that are forbidden, went to lengths to arouse that instinct within us, that it should be aesthetically repulsive, and that would be the most effective way to keep us from being contaminated by them. That's the Rav's point, and it's a good point. But as we know, one can learn to overcome this aesthetic reaction. One can learn to develop a taste and even like things that are repulsive. Just think of cheese. So many of these fancy, expensive cheeses have a disgusting smell. I remember the first time I went into a supermarket in Switzerland, and I thought there was a dead horse somewhere in there. It turned out that was a cheese section. But people learn to develop a taste and feel their very culture, that not only that they like it, but that they devour it, and they serve these things at their among the high society, and unfortunately this holds true for some of the acts which the Torah calls toiva, which not only do some people succumb to by not being strong enough to overcome whatever drive they had to do these things, but by these changing social conventions and mores, which are unfortunately given a stamp of approval by judicial institutions around the world, including Israel, and it becomes not only socially acceptable, but now you can get into a lot of trouble by expressing your opinion, as I do now, that sexual depravity, including homosexuality, is something which is forbidden and which is not sanctioned, which is not a basic human right. But there is, however, another side to this. The same way that one can develop a taste for things that were one time considered to be repulsive and disgusting, and consider these things to be acceptable and beautiful, one can also develop a sense of repulsion, the same way that one developed a sense of acceptance. The Rav points out in other places that the reason why in our davening, particularly on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we speak of sin as repulsive, and we stand before Kadosh Baruch Hu and say that we feel filthy and disgusting And even though we just we've showered and put on our best clothes and maybe gone to the mikveh, but we feel disgusted with ourselves, and that's the spur to do tshuva. The Rav says that the spur to do tshuva arises within the person, the way you sometimes have a feeling. You wake up in the morning and you're not sick, but you have this queasy feeling. So things don't feel quite right in your body. You're feeling that you're coming down with something. The same way, when the stimulus to do tshuva is this sort of uneasy feeling you have with yourself, that there's something wrong with you, that there's something that you're not at peace with yourself, that there's something in your personality. Not because sin is really, it's not so much that I did this or that other thing. If I was a perfectly, wonderful person, but I, for 1 second, lost my sense of judgment and robbed someone, then, Veshivat Gzela, I can return it, and I can undo the damage. Some things you can't undo the damage, but the more basic and generally the more difficult type of sin are things that you find something it's in your personality. You're simply someone who reacts too quickly with anger, who is not responsive when you should be, who's not generous. These are personality things, and you start to feel uneasy with yourself. And this, again, like I said, just as when you feel an illness coming on, you feel something within yourself feeling not so good, and you feel lousy, but you're not quite sick. The same thing is what you feel when you begin to have these pangs of conscience, which add these feelings that there's something not quite wrong. And this is what spurs you to do tshuva. The Rav says that in the process of tshuva, intellect plays an insignificant role. It's not the sitting down and analyzing, going over everything you did and everything you think and all your attitudes towards things. It's more, as he says, the emotional, experiential, and instinctive planes where things go on that alert you that there's something quite wrong. And it's going to be developed by old style preaching. We simply have got to reinstill the sense of disgust that people once had with certain types of behavior that the Torah calls toiva, in the hope that we can restore at the sense, the almost instinctive sense of repulsion that people have towards these things, and thus get us to avoid the path of sin and get on the path of correct and upright behavior, which is the necessary precondition and preparation for the type of limud Torah and limud chachma and intellectual development, which is our ultimate goal. Shiva Shavtena Kavarishana V'yotzena Kavat Chila V'asir Mimenu V'yagon V'anacha. Shabbat Shalom.